Hello, and welcome to the webcast, How Mandelli is Transforming Their Service Model Using Remote Monitoring, brought to you by Industry Week and PTC. My name is Anka Birce, Regional Marketing Manager at PTC, and I'll be your moderator today. During this webcast, you will hear from Saverio Giulini, CEO and General Manager at Mandelli Sistemi, and Justin Hester, Digital Transformation Director at PTC. Before we get started, I would like to go over some housekeeping. If you're experiencing technical difficulties at any time during this webcast, please reference the Help widget on your dashboard. Please also check out the resources available to you in the Resource Library window in your dashboard. Please note that following the presentation, we will open the floor to questions. To submit your questions, simply enter them into the Q&A window, and we will try to address as many of them as possible at the end of the event. Now I'll turn it over to Justin and Saverio.
Thank you very much. I'm excited today to have the opportunity to talk to Saverio from Mandelli. Thank you for joining us today, Saverio.
Good morning to everybody. Good morning, Justin. Saverio Giulini speaking. And thank you for inviting me and bringing our experience on the table.
Yeah, no, we appreciate and looking forward to a good conversation today. Quick check of the agenda of what we're going to be covering today. Quick introduction. Then we're going to go through the overall machine builders market, some business challenges that you're experiencing, and then we'll talk through some solutions and results and then wrap it up today. But let's not waste time here. I'm looking forward to dive into the details. So, Saverio, can you tell us a little bit about Mandelli?
Yeah, for sure, Justin. Mandelli Sistemi has been established in 1932, 87 years ago, and nowadays is one of the leaders in the 5-axis machining center for machining aerospace components and energy, oil and gas, and wind components. We supply on a global basis, so we cover all Europe, strong presence in Asia, mainly in China, and a strong presence as well as in North America, US, and Canada. We are expert in hard material cutting, roughing operation, and finishing on the same machine, having developed at first in the world the multitasking mill and turn solution. Our presence, as said, is worldwide, and we, I think, can bring some good comments about the digital transformation.
Great. Yeah, it sounds like Mandelli's been a leader in the machine building space. And actually, we have a video here that is one of the newer machines that you've introduced to help everybody understand in a little more detail what Mandelli has. Well, that was a really cool video of one of the new machines that Mandelli's introduced. Severio, can you give us some color and flavor around what this new machine can do?
Well, actually, what you have seen is the development of our SPAR product line dedicated to the titanium application. So very hard material cutting, very high performance in material removal rate, so capacity of producing parts, and at the same time having a very high rigidity. It can perform the final finishing of the component. So we have been setting a little bit higher the rack in comparison to our competitors with this solution.
That's awesome. It looks like Mandelli's not only looking at digital transformation, but transforming the entire way that their customers produce products, and that machine's definitely going to help them with that.
Actually, yes, we try a little bit, and mechanic and digital are more and more integrated one into the others.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and talk about some of the trends in the market. And I think a lot of organizations and team members around the world are feeling these market trends. One we hear a lot of, which is a worker shortage. And it's not just to say that there aren't people to work, but it's finding people with the proper skills that can fulfill the customer needs. There's a lot of risk and cost pressures that we're seeing. In fact, some of the key metrics in manufacturing are dipping and are falling lower than their 2016 numbers. And as we've talked about throughout the industry, this idea of disruption, we just talked about not only disrupting the way that customers are producing parts, but there's this digital transformation and disruption going on that's really causing a churn in the market. And so, Severio, I'd like to turn this to Mandelli and the machine builders market. What are some of the pressures that you as a leader inside the machine builders industry are seeing?
That's a good question, not easy to answer. I will bring our perspective. What we have seen in the last few years has been that there has been a progressive reshoring of the key components manufactured by our customer, bringing back them into their own country, or reducing the distance between the manufacturing place and the place where you assemble the components together. It's, I think, positive all in all, because it's a little bit less lower cost country research, but put the pressure on manufacturers like us in increasing the performance of the system from mechanical perspective as well as from the maintenance perspective, so that we are now more requested in rather than being competitive on the price point of the machine, in the total cost of ownership of a machine like ours. So actually, during the total life of the equipment, how much our customer is going to spend to keep it producing, including the downtime, which obviously as less they are, the best it is, and consequently focusing on the maximum uptime. And here is where the aspect of the disruption, digital disruption, it's getting place into our business, because through the digitalization, surely you can work in a different way, utilize the machine differently, learn much more out of the machine, and consequently provide better support and higher uptime to the customer.
And I love how you put a spin on what many call globalization. You're saying it's really a localization through globalization. And very interesting that you're seeing your customers are starting to look at more holistic cost of ownership instead of more of the one or two traditional operating KPIs. So based on some of these trends and that you've discussed, Severio, and some of the trends that we see in the market at whole, as a leader at Mandelli and the leader, what is your 5-year vision on how Mandelli can respond to some of these disruptions and new needs from your customers?
Talking about 5 years is not easy. It's becoming a long-term scenario. However, obviously, we plan more or less in this dimension. So we are working on essentially on three directions, which we think are the one which could better position our company into the market of the future. Obviously, one is regarding the concept of the machine itself, so working in the core of mechanical parts, components, and there is always a lot to do there. But the second point on which we are really investing a lot, it's identifying what could be the offering that we can provide to our customer through the utilization of the information which are nowadays resident into the machine, and differently from the past, through the tools which and the platform which are available. Different scenarios are opening in terms of providing different level of services, classifying a customer according to what they expect from us to do. So I would say the core area where to work from us is really into the best utilization of the digital contents which our machines can offer, and how to utilize those data. And at the end, it's my belief that the mix of these mechanical and digital aspects are going really to differentiate and companies like us and make a step forward towards the customer requirement. So more and more, customer is becoming someone which we need to listen more, understand more what is requiring, and also machine tool in some way could become something like a machine as a service. I know that software as a service is already a very common word, but machine as a service is machine in terms of machine tool as a service is something that in 5 years or maybe a little bit longer will probably be much more common.
That's really interesting to hear, the machine as a service taking, like you said, software as a service, that we're all used to that term now, but looking as a machine, I'm looking forward to seeing that come about in the next couple of years. And also, you talked a lot about digital, and I think that's a great transition into the next point. We've heard a lot in the market from different players that machine builders like yourself have to become digital companies. But I think if we're realistic and honest, Mandelli can use digital tools to better service your customers and change that conversation. But I don't think your goal is to become a digital company solely. Is that correct?
Justin, you're right. A company like ours, regarding the digital, basically, we had since long an experience utilizing electronic and the digital information that the CNC control provides for just managing the machine. But what we were not used, and we are starting to get used, is how to use those information. And so really we go into the digital world of today in a different way, in a way that allow us to understand more how customers are using the machine, understand better how we can utilize this information to provide a better service. A company like Mandelli will never be a digital company, I think, but the digital portion is something that in a way or another need to get more into our mindset. So it's a cultural switch, shift, maybe is better as a word, which we need to do. And the way which we are pursuing the digitalization of the machines and the service that we offer goes in the direction also to utilize this shift also in our internal way of thinking. So stepping to a different level, I would say.
So it's real interesting how you're seeing that it's not becoming a digital company. It's really what you're seeing is the harmony of the legacy of years of performance and tribal knowledge and excellence combining with that new digital tools are really where you see the value, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. It's it's there. So we have an heritage which represents the foundation and has been solid for the last 30 years and position a company like ours in a very, very strong status. And now we need to add this new world, I would say, the IoT or Internet of Things applied to the industry, which it's a little bit of a revolution, and I think it's very positive because for company and a product like ours, it can be a new era where we should start looking at the way in which we design the machine, the way in which we really propose ourselves to our customer from a complete different perspective. And it's not easy to say how it will be the world 5 or 10 years from now, but I surely can say, I am convinced that it will be significantly different. And the transition speed, which now it's not yet so fast, will probably accelerate in the next 2 or 3 years. The more the also new generation is going to be part of our industry. We are a company that has an average age which is pretty high, so for us to think in the IoT perspective is not easy, but as more as we will have on board young guys, which comes in with this mentality, we will be forced and pushed to be even quicker getting to this new position.
Also, it really sounds like you have a strong vision for how Mandelli can utilize these digital tools, and you're going through that cultural shift, which is great to hear, and I think definitely market leading. When you look at the machine builder industry as a whole, Saverio, the customers that exist in that space, do you find that they're well positioned to take advantage of these new solutions you're talking about, or is there still a cultural change that has to go on with the user side as well?
I think that all in all, there is quite a bit of step to make before the average customer is really understanding how to get advantage of this digital transformation or digitalization of the machine. For what specifically concerns us, I would consider 2 types of customers. There are big size companies, big corporations, where the process is happening inside in different areas, and so they are basically ready, and in a way a little bit also pushing us to speed up. Then there is the majority in terms of number of customers who are smaller entities, where these cultural shifts still have to happen. And it's our duty, I think, to help them to grow in culture, to let those customers understand what they can get out of a machine, as systems which can be controlled remotely, can provide information that if daily analyzed by our platform, can significantly improve the overall machine availability and assure a much more prompt service, because we are kept aware of what is happening through the remote, let's say, control. So, in essence, the change has to happen, but it's happening. I would say it's happening. All in all, little by little, it's happening.
It's interesting because I keep hearing this common theme that I'm taking away so far is this harmony, where you talked about the harmony and the legacy of the past mixing with the new digital tools inside Mandelli, but it's also looking at a new harmony between Mandelli and your customers working together to understand how to utilize these. So It's very interesting that this theme keeps coming out about harmony and working together, the past and the present, the customer and the supplier. Very interesting theme I'm seeing here. So one last question when we talk about challenges in the industry. We've seen a lot of analyst and market buzz around this idea that new revenue streams will be created very rapidly. And you talked about, for example, maybe in the future, machines as a service and much like software as a service. And so that's an interesting question I want to unwrap a little here is, compared to maybe market expectations, we've seen that this isn't moving so quickly. What are some of the reasons you believe that has led to some delay or cultural non-acceptance of some of these ideas, such as machine as a service, this year or even last year?
I think it's a mix of reasons. If I take our own experience, first of all, it's the speed of change within our own company in terms of spreading around the company, the culture of looking at the customer from a different perspective and considering the machine a continuous source of or a continuous flow of possible revenues. So we had to work, and I think we ourselves now we are ready. But as I mentioned, it takes time because the approach from an engineering perspective to the digitalization of the machine, it's done from really engineering mind, when maybe we should think from not an engineering mechanical mind, but more as an informatic from information perspective. Sorry. So it's on one side us. Second, I think the customer again need themselves to understand better what it may mean to have a machine as a service in terms the control on the machine. It's something that becomes shared. So you don't do anymore what you want with it. It's a much more partnership. Absolutely, I think the partnership it's a common word that I heard around when talking about digitalization, because you start talking about data, and data it's something that belongs to who? If are generated by a machine that you have sold to a customer, so the customer thinks data is mine. True, but if you want that we offer you better support and so those data needs to be also a little bit our, because we need to analyze them, and through this analysis we can come back to you with information that helps you to be more efficient. So I think it's here where the cultural shift should happen from both from the side of the manufacturer and the user. And if I may, a machine as a service also has a financial impact, not negligible, more than probably a software as a service, because a machine like ours, which is worth maybe a couple of million, has to be built and need to be financed when you provide it as a service. And but I have seen that the finance world, the banking system, is starting to looking also at this aspect, not yet unless for the huge group, but let's say the major multinational companies that are at their own finance services. But for, let's say, the more common world where we work, it's an area that where there is a lot to do in order to be in condition to really provide this solution to the customer, also from the finance side.
So it's really interesting. It's truly a change across all parts of the industry. And I like at the end how you said it's not even just the machine builders or the customers, it's even the finance world that is being disrupted and has to relook at how they do things. So let's move away then from some of these challenges and let's start talking about some of the solutions and how Mandelli is moving forward. today. And so at PTC, we provide digital transformation solutions that really move organizations like Mandelli up the solution stack. And you can stop talking about bits and bytes and technical details and really focus your team on how to utilize these solutions to solve business challenges that you have or to find in the long-term new revenue streams. So can you explain how utilizing these solutions was a game changer for Mandelli on your journey?
Yes, with pleasure, Justin, and thanks for the question. Mandelli started basically 2 years and a half ago to work thoroughly on the industrial Internet of Things, and we developed the program iPuma Suite 4.0, which includes the 4 packages, let's say, that you can see on the screen, 2 of which, the iPredict and the iReality, are those where the interaction with PTC is more tight and has been and will be stronger. Talking of something that is actually almost completed and on which we have done a lot of proof of concept, it's the iReality. So utilization of augmented reality at the beginning, and that's an experience that I want to share. We thought it would have been a good tool for the service, which actually is. But meanwhile, we were putting together how to roll out the operative plan. I realized, and I would say also through some good reading on of the president of PTC, on how actually augmented reality can be not only utilized from the perspective of providing a better service on the machines, in our case, and then to the customer, but really a game changer also within the company. So the company, our own company. So the rollout of the augmented reality at the end in Mandelli started from the sales, developing tools that are now available, that we use augmented reality to explain much better the product to our customer. Then in the design review of our product, which it's a little bit, I think, like when you step from 2D to 3D, and actually the 3D next step is the augmented reality used at the end of the engineering. And so you really do a full redesign as an engineering designer, having on scale 1:1 your components in front of you. And it's really going to modify our way of thinking. Step following is our assembly, internal. So all groups which we assemble, we are supported no more by just paper, which actually was what we were using, details, 3D drawing and so, but through tablets, the assembly sequences are now on augmented reality, and the workers are helped much more. And then we get to the service. So it's a complete, let's say, chain, which touches 4 different sections of the company, and at the end we get to what originally was our vision: service to customer and facilitate it. The second portion, which we have been doing again a lot of proof of concept, and we have already rolled out a portion, is on the iPredict remote monitoring. Now we have we have basically about 73 digital sensors which we monitor, and we have on our eye control, which is the control of the machine that you can see a picture on the slides. Next steps, which we are close to start, it's really the analyzing those data in order to get in condition to predict potential stoppages of the machine in, let's say, 24, 36 hours ahead. I have described to my team and to myself these prediction models, which you probably, it's a step-by-step process. You will never end to improve the prediction. But the first step, which I think it's quite good as a metaphor, it's like the weather forecast. We need to know if tomorrow or in 5 hours it's going to rain, and so you can walk out from your house with an umbrella. I need to know if in 24 hours one of the customer machines might have problems, so that I prepare myself for possible service and be ready to get on the car and drive to the customer, not being surprised that this happened, because it was predicted the possibility of. So starting from this, in the future, we will fine-tune more and more the system in condition to become a real prediction of a sure stopper, which it's a final aim. But again, this will be a process. It's something that you start and you know where you want to go, but not necessarily the way you go through is the one that you envisaged at the very beginning. But the most important thing is to start. Otherwise, on these things, if you wait that everything is ready, then it will never be ready. So you need to move on.
And I have to be honest with you, Saverio, back when I was in industry, you laid out some of this vision in a meeting we had, and to be honest, it completely changed the way I thought about analytics. I love the way, we think we have to have everything perfect, and the prediction has to be telling me exactly what will fail and when it will fail, and as you said, that's unrealistic to think that is step one, but the idea instead can we just move to forecasting the weather and tell me if I need my proverbial umbrella today or not. I think it's a great first step and one that other organizations can look to as a model in the machine builder world of how to get started. The other thing I loved is throughout this conversation, you said you interacted with PTC both on iReality and iPredict, but at no point did you really talk about the digital tools behind it. And to me, that's great, because that's showing how utilizing these solutions, instead you were able to look at the business needs. And for example, you talked about with augmented reality, you said, well, originally we thought it's service first, but then we realized it's actually sales and marketing first, internal processes, and then finally external to interaction with the customer at a service level. And I really appreciate how the tools from PTC allowed you and your team to concentrate on the business and not the digital side.
Yeah.
So wrapping up today, and thank you again, Saverio. We've had a great conversation. And I really appreciate your insight, and I know others will, your insight into the machine builders industry and sharing some very specific examples from inside Mandelli. So I do appreciate that, and I know others will. And so from a PTC side, there's what you've seen and heard today, there's a lot of challenges in the market, but even more so, there's a lot of opportunities in the market. And so by utilizing PTC solutions, you can, as a machine builder, start looking at the business needs and the business opportunities that exist and start working towards those. And with PTC, we have a unique portfolio for that digital transformation, from CAD, PLM, IoT, augmented reality, which you heard some of that today that Mandelli is utilizing, and really putting the people first and the business first instead of the technology. And so with that, I want to give the last minute here, Saverio, to you to give you an opportunity, if there's any other comments you have maybe for machine builders like yourself who are taking what you had today and looking to how they can change, maybe some last bit of advice you can provide.
Okay, I will do my best. I think that this digital transformation, in a way, it should be something considered as a belief. You need to believe on it. You need to trust that is going to step you into a different, higher position. And a lot of things are done just on the basis of the return of investment. This one is difficult to quantify. So at the beginning, because you start not knowing exactly where you will be, but you need to understand that where you will be is where your customer will ask you to be, and if they ask when you are not ready, then it's going to be a problem because it will take quite a bit to regain the position. So I think that there should be a strong commitment from the top in the company that decide to move in this direction, like a CEO like me, that 100% trust on the fact that we need to follow something that today looks still a little bit strange. So in a way, it's like you need to decide that you want to move from this constellation to another constellation somewhere far away, light year ahead, but you need to then don't have yet maybe a precisely an understanding of where you will be, but you understand that you will move in a direction that will change completely, progressively, but completely the way of thinking of your company. So we started with the idea of offering better service to the customer, and the positive which I am taking out of this original idea is that we are progressively transforming internally our company, which at the end of the day is even more important because will give as an end result or as an ongoing result a more efficient, proactive organization aimed to better serve the customer. I hope these words will help. I'm sorry, maybe with the English was not so clear, but
no, it's
the message, my little message, 2 cents message.
No, it's very good. In fact, I find myself here writing notes down as I'm learning as well and taking away some great points from this. So I appreciate your time. And if you're looking out there and saying, I learned a lot today and appreciate what Saverio brought to the table, and you're saying, how can I learn from more about the digital transformation in the machine builder space? We want to invite you to come out to the LiveWorks event in Boston, Massachusetts in the United States here, June 10th through the 13th, where you're going to hear from other machine builders as well as hear about the digital transformation, new solutions coming out, trends of the market, and I'll circle back, and most importantly, from your peers who are on this journey with you. And you'll see on your screen there's a code there for $100 off registration, so I encourage you to take advantage of that at liveworks.com. We look forward to hopefully seeing you in June, and think that'll be a great event.
We do have time for a few questions. You can still submit your questions in the Q&A window. If we do not answer your question live, rest assured we will follow up with you. So the first question is, I have tried some digital transformation initiatives, and they never seem to grow or scale in my company. What can we do to scale out? Justin, can you take that one?
Yeah, so I think actually let's take some lessons of what we've heard from Saverio today. And towards the end there, in his advice, he said it's really important that the leadership of your organization be all bought in. It's the new world. It's traveling to the new world or a new constellation, as Saverio put it. And having from your top leadership the conviction and the drive to say, we know where we need to go. We don't necessarily know how to get there, but we're all in on getting there. That's very important, that executive leadership. The second thing I would say is finding partners who can provide you solutions instead of technology, and focusing on the human and the business with those solutions instead of focusing on the engineering ones and zeros and the digital parts of it very specifically, I think also can lead to some challenges. And finally, I would suggest find value inside your organization and go after that first. You heard Saverio talk about how they understood the value of augmented reality, but then actually, as they looked at the business needs, they found that sales and marketing was an area that they could see value first, and that's where they went after it first, going step by step to their final end goal. So I think those are three things that you can look to and work on to help get out of what many now are jokingly calling proof of concept hell, and get out of that and move into actual scale and moving on a journey like you heard of today, where business needs and opportunities are being addressed.
Great, thanks, Justin. Another question we got was, my customers aren't interested in allowing me access to data from their shop floor. How do I get around that?
Yeah, so I think there's two things I would suggest here. One is, again, let's circle back to what we heard from Saverio today about looking at value and having a partnership with your customer. I think it's very important to work with your customer to understand their needs. And if you understand their needs completely, you can have a conversation around the data. And as Saverio very clearly laid out, as he said, there's a lot of challenges in who owns the data. But if you explain in a clear way that with some of the data, Mandelli can start offering these services and clearly explaining the value of those services, it then starts to become more a conversation of how we execute and completing it than I don't want you to have my data. The other thing I would suggest is by working with a partner like PTC. PTC brings to the table other partners like Microsoft and Rockwell, who are industry leaders in factory and machine data collection, data storage, data transmission, all in a very secure way, especially as many know the Microsoft Azure cloud is world-class when it comes to security and execution. So I think those two approaches, one, forming a partnership with your customer to find value and address the value, which then makes the data sharing conversation easier to have, but then also working with partners who can bring solutions like Microsoft's solution to the table, then also helps your customers have more confidence in sharing some data.
Great. And we have time for one more question. I think this one is directed at you, Saverio. Does Mandelli have a group who is tasked with digital transformation?
What we have done since the beginning has been to rely, for what it concerns the technical aspect, the details, expertise of the software, the platform, to rely on a partner, which is PTC, but to have and create a culture internally which allow us to understand and drive into the direction that we want the partner and the tools that the partner can offer. So, having this as a strategy, we have established a team, which in our reality means 1.5 persons, who spent time, and it's coming from it's an internal guy that has been working over 20 years in the company on the electronic portion of the machine, and he is the interface for any digital transformation which relates to the iPredict and iReality project. We have not asked him to become an expert, but to utilize his expertise and wisdom in understanding how to better leverage the tools and the expertise of the experts. And my suggestion for a company like us, we didn't mention at the beginning, we are a 30 million company, 110 people, so we cannot afford to create a team in the concept of a team, but we can have someone who spend time with sufficient knowledge and experience to understand what is going on and use at best, as I mentioned, the expertise of the partner that we have been choosing.
Very well, thank you. So We have run out of time for this webinar, but as I indicated before, if we did not get to your questions live, we will follow up with you directly. Before we wrap up, I would like to take the opportunity to remind you to check out the resources available to you in the resource library. And I would like to thank our presenters for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much, Severio and Justin. Everyone for joining, thank you for participating, and have a wonderful day. Thank you all.
Thank you, Anke. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Soria.